Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a specific document you shared with us, the COBIT 2019 Implementation Guide.
That's right. And we're here to sort of walk through it together with you. Think of us as your guides, maybe, helping unpack this. The goal is really to pull out the key takeaways and make this pretty dense guide feel clear and actionable for you.
Yeah, this is the official ISAC guide, and it's aimed squarely at helping enterprises implement and, optimize their governance of information and technology, what they call EE, using the COBIT 2019 framework.
And we're planning to tackle it section by section, basically following the order in the document itself. That way we can understand the flow and the core message as the authors intended.
Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. Before diving into the framework, the guide talks a bit about ISACA, the publisher.
Right, sets the context. It tells us ISACA is a global association, been around quite a while, almost 50 years when this came out. Their main purpose, helping folks and companies, achieve the positive potential of tech.
And they've got some serious backing, leveraging expertise from, 500,000 professionals worldwide in areas like cybersecurity, governance, assurance, risk, all the big ones. That global footprint really adds weight, doesn't it?
It does. And, there's also a dedication right up front that adds a bit of a human touch. It's in memoriam to John Lanehart.
Yeah, that stood out. He was apparently a really key figure, chaired the ISACA board years ago, helped create the original COBIT, and then actually came back to chair the working group for this 2019 version. Held all the key certifications, too.
It's a good reminder that these big frameworks, they're built by real people with deep experience and dedication.
Okay. After the dedication, we hit the acknowledgments.
Yeah, we don't need to read all the names, obviously, but just noting there highlights how collaborative this was. You've got a working group, development team, expert reviewers, the ISACA board, lots of eyes on it.
Definitely underscores the rigor involved in putting something like this together. All right, so before we get into the meat of what EJGI is and how to do it, the guide lays out its table of contents. This is basically our roadmap for today's discussion.
Exactly. It's a pretty logical flow. Introduction first, then positioning EJGI, taking the first steps, challenges, and success factors, that's always important, enabling change, and then the really detailed implementation lifecycle.
So that's the path we'll follow, guiding you through the guide's own structure. Let's jump into Chapter 1, Introduction.
Okay, so this chapter kicks off by stating the obvious, but it's crucial. Digital transformation means INT isn't just support anymore. It's like fundamental for survival, growth, everything.
And the guide is really clear. Boards and senior management, they have to be involved in INT decisions now. It's not optional. Why? Because creating value for stakeholders, getting benefits, managing cost and risk, it's all tied up with technology now. Survival depends on it for digitized enterprises.
Which brings us to the core idea. Enterprise Governance of Information and Technology, or EGA. The guide defines it as a part of corporate governance, driven by the board, and it's about setting up the processes, structures, relationships, basically getting business and IT to work together effectively.
The aim being, business IT alignment and making sure those INT investments actually deliver real business value. Figure 1.1 in the guide kind of shows this context visually.
And COBIT's role in all this. ISACA developed it specifically to help enterprises put these governance and management pieces in place. The guide flat out says implementing EJIT without a framework like COBIT is, really hard.
But they're also realistic, aren't they? They say success is complex, there's no silver bullet. EG isn't plug and play. You absolutely have to tailor it to your specific context, your needs.
And here's a really key point.
Yeah.
It needs the board and senior execs not just to nod along, but to actually accept accountability and drive a different mindset, a different culture around INT. That's often the hardest part.
Okay, moving into the COBIT overview section within Chapter 1. This clarifies where this implementation guide fits.
Yeah, it's the fourth publication in the COBIT 2019 suite, as Figure 1.2 shows.
Right. There are other core ones like the Introduction and Methodology and the Governance and Management Objectives Guide.
And that Objectives Guide is important. It lays out the 40 core objectives. Things across domains like APO align, plan, organize, and DSS deliver, service, support, BAI, MEA. All those acronyms basically covering the life cycle of INT.
Figure 1.2 itself gives a nice picture, doesn't it? You've got inputs, community knowledge, standards, regulations feeding the core COBIT publications. Then you combine those with your specific design factors, things unique to your business, and maybe specific focus areas like security or risk.
And that helps you end up with a tailored EJIT system, using that core model of objectives. It really drives home the point that INT governance has to be integral to enterprise governance, covering everything end to end.
And the guide jumps right into why implementations sometimes fail. Familiar reasons, right? Not managed properly as a program, weak executive sponsorship, fuzzy scope, or objectives.
Exactly, which is why they stress program management as being integral to the whole life cycle. The goal isn't just doing a project, it's making EJIT become normal business practice, making it sustainable.
Yeah, it's about changing how people work and empowering stakeholders, not just rolling out some new tech or process charts.
So what's the specific purpose and scope of this guide, the implementation guide?
Well, the source says it's basically here to help you avoid those common pitfalls, leverage good practices, and, get to successful EG outcomes that last.
And this is but it's not meant to be some rigid step-by-step prescription. It's not a complete solution out of the box.
Right. It really emphasizes building on what you already have, your existing structures, things that work well elsewhere in the business, maybe improvements from using COBIT 5. It's about evolving, not starting from zero.
And the guide positions itself as reflecting lessons learned and enhanced understanding since previous versions. It mentions COBIT 2019 is downloadable, and ISACA expects to release more focus area content down the line.
Okay, the structure gets mentioned again, just reinforcing the path we're taking.
And then it clarifies the target audience. It's really aimed at experienced pros across the enterprise business, audit, security, IT, risk, maybe external folks too.
The key being, you need some real-world experience and understanding of your enterprise to effectively tailor the generic COBIT guidance. It's not really for beginners.
And Chapter 1 wraps up by explicitly highlighting the link to the COBIT 2019 design guide.
That's a crucial link, isn't it?
Absolutely. This implementation guide focuses on the process of implementing EJ, the how-to. But the design guide drills down into the factors that make your governance system unique, your strategy, your risks, the role IT plays. It gives you a workflow for using those factors to tailor the system, fleshing out tasks that are only mentioned here.
Okay, let's dig into Chapter 2, Positioning Enterprise Governance of INT.
Yeah, this chapter gets to the heart of what EG really means and why it matters so much.
It starts with the word governance itself, points out the Greek root means to steer.
And COBIT builds on that idea. Governance means evaluating stakeholder needs to set objectives, then setting direction through decisions and priorities, and then critically monitoring performance and compliance. And again, it stresses this is the board's job, integrated with overall enterprise governance.
So with that definition, why is EG so critical? The guide lays out several really compelling reasons.
Well, first off, INT is just a strategic asset now. It's not just plumbing. It's fundamental to creating value.
Real value, too, like finding cost savings in mergers, automating processes, enabling totally new digital business models, or getting closer to customers with data. The guide notes a lot of INT spending happens without clear visibility on value beyond just, keeping the lights on. EG forces that value conversation.
Then there's the risk side. Being networked creates huge potential business risks, security breaches, data loss, service disruption, even just missing market opportunities. EGI is vital for managing these risks effectively, which is ultimately about preserving value.
And regulations.
Yes.
The landscape is just getting more complex, right? Lots of industries have specific IT-related rules. The guide even mentions places where COBIT adoption is mandated or strongly recommended, like banking in Turkey or regulations in Australia. A framework helps manage compliance efficiently.
Plus, there's evidence it works. The guide mentions a case study in airline, I think showing real benefits like lower continuity costs, better alignment, more trust. And conversely, bad EDI actually hurts performance and reduces the value you get from digital efforts.
It also makes a point that governance here is broader than maybe a narrow GRC focus, which can sometimes get stuck just on compliance reporting or risk silos.
Okay, so if you implement EGI well, what should it actually deliver? The guide points to 3 main outcomes.
First up is benefits realization. This is about making sure INT investments actually create value and getting rid of initiatives that don't. It means getting services and solutions that fit the need, on time, on budget, aligned with business values, and crucially, measuring INT's impact on enterprise value.
Second, risk optimization. That's tackling the downside, managing the business risks from using INT. It's about protecting the value you're creating, This needs to plug into the enterprise's overall risk management framework. Performance here is measured by how well value is preserved.
And third is resource optimization, making sure you have the right capabilities and are using your resources, infrastructure, tech, people, skills, data effectively and efficiently.
And the guide notes that strategic alignment and performance measurement aren't separate outcomes, but really overarching themes that apply to everything it does.
Section 2.2 then talks about leveraging COBIT itself and integrating it with other standards and practices.
Yeah, it positions COBIT as that overarching framework, aligning with enterprise governance, non-technical, tech-agnostic. It says the board should really mandate its adoption.
And it highlights how COBIT connects to other, more detailed standards. It doesn't replace them. It provides a structure to see how they fit together under specific governance or management objectives.
Which can apparently help with external audits too, since COBIT is so widely recognized. But the point is, while COBIT gives the big picture, you'll still use specific standards as you tailor your implementation.
And that tailoring has to align with what your enterprise already does. Policies, strategies, risk management approaches, existing governance structures. It has to fit in.
The guide then presents the core principles. Figure 2.1 has principles for the governance system itself, things like provide stakeholder value, holistic approach, dynamic system, separating governance from management, making it tailored, and ensuring it's end-to-end.
And Figure 2.2 has principles for the governance framework, like being based on a conceptual model, open and flexible, and aligned to major standards. These aren't just buzzwords, they're design guides. Like, dynamic system means your EG has to adapt to change.
It also lists the components of a governance system. It goes beyond just processes and org charts to include information, skills, culture, behavior, policies, even services and apps.
And differentiates between the generic components in the core model and the specific variants you develop for focus areas like security or DevOps.
And it calls out two specific objectives, key to the framework itself. EDM-01 for setting and maintaining the governance framework, and APO-001 for managing the INT management framework.
Right, which flows nicely into Chapter 3, taking the first steps toward EGI.
This is all about laying the groundwork, getting started properly.
Section 3.1, creating the appropriate environment. The guide is pretty blunt here, isn't it? EGI initiatives fail without strong executive support, period.
Yeah, if you don't have that backing, new policies just won't stick. Improvements won't become routine. Management has to actively assign roles, ensure things are operating, monitor compliance. Otherwise, it fizzles out.
So EG8 can't be seen as just an IT project. It has to be woven into the overall enterprise governance with clear, visible direction from the top.
The guide even suggests this process might uncover weaknesses in overall corporate governance that need fixing first. Executives need to get it, understand the concepts, and realize the risk if the foundation isn't solid.
And a key mechanism for this is setting up an INT governance board. The guide suggests this group acts for the main board, ideally chaired by a business exec, includes senior business and IT folks. Figures 3.1 and 3.2 give some generic role examples.
Then Section 3.2 introduces the core implementation method, applying a continual improvement lifecycle approach.
This is fundamental. It's not a linear project, it's a cycle. Figure 3.3 lays out the 7 phases.
Phase 1, what are the drivers? Basically, why are we doing this? What's the business case?
Phase 2, where are we now? Assessing the current situation, risks, alignment with goals.
Phase 3, where do we want to be? Defining the target state, figuring out the gaps.
Phase 4, what needs to be done? Planning the actual solutions, the projects, getting approval.
Phase 5, how do we get there? The actual implementation work, executing the plan, monitoring progress, usually the longest phase.
Phase 6, did we get there? Checking if you actually achieved the goals and benefits you aimed for.
And Phase 7, how do we keep the momentum going, making the changes stick, and teeing up the next cycle?
And the advice on timing is interesting. Try to keep iterations relatively short, like under 6 months, to maintain momentum. Break bigger things down.
Section 3.3 talks about recognizing enterprise triggers and pain points.
Yeah.
Identifying these is key, the guide says, because they fuel the business case for EGT.
And the list of typical pain points is pretty relatable, I think. That ongoing friction between business and IT, the feeling IT doesn't deliver enough value.
Or maybe big incidents happen, security breaches, major outages, or audit findings just keep flagging the same issues over and over.
Other classics. IT spending feels like a black box. Too many projects fail or go over budget. Senior managers just don't want to engage with IT strategy.
Yeah, or the tech is so old you can't innovate, data quality is poor, or different business units are just doing their own thing with IT, creating chaos. EGI aims to address exactly these kinds of problems.
And besides those chronic pains, there are often specific trigger events.
Right. Things like a merger or acquisition that forces you to look at governance, or big shifts in the market, or changes to your business model, maybe increased outsourcing.
New regulations coming down the pipe, adopting major new tech like cloud, or even just getting new leadership, a new CEO or CIO.
External audit findings can be a big trigger too, or launching a major new business strategy that relies heavily on IT. Sometimes it's just a general desire from the top to get more value from INT.
And it's interesting how these triggers often map directly to those design factors in the other guide. A change in strategy is a design factor that should prompt a review of your governance.
The guide really pushes getting that board and executive commitment early by framing everything in business terms and aiming for some quick wins to show progress and build trust.
And crucially, thinking about change enablement right from the start. Who's affected? How do we manage the human side?
Section 3.3.3 touches on stakeholder involvement. EG isn't done to the organization, it requires collaboration.
Key players mentioned: board and execs setting direction, senior business and IT management aligning goals.
Then the process owners in business and IT who actually do the work. Risk, compliance, legal, keeping things on track.
And internal audit, providing that independent check.
And the success factors listed echo this: strong mandate, clear objectives, good communication, tailoring, and those quick wins.
Then Section 3.4 dives a bit deeper into recognizing stakeholders' roles and requirements, using tables to spell things out.
Figure 3.5 covers internal stakeholders. So the board execs, their job is direction, visible support, or approval, their interest, max business benefit, fixing big issues.
Business management provides resources, ensures business alignment. They want better INT alignment.
The CIO leads the charge, ensures alignment, manages INT risk. They're interested in achieving objectives, better business relations.
IT managers and process owners lead specific work streams, focused on improving their areas.
Compliance risk legal ensure alignment with ERM, want better compliance and risk handling.
Internal audit advises and assesses independently, looking for improved controls, resolved findings.
Then you've got the implementation team managing the program and users who are impacted day to day.
And Figure 3.6 covers external stakeholders. They aren't running the program, but their needs matter.
Right. Customers care about service, security, privacy, all outcomes of good EG.
IT service providers need to align their governance with yours if you outsource.
Regulators want to see that you're meeting legal and regulatory requirements.
And shareholders look at overall corporate governance, including EG, as part of their assessment of the company.
Okay, Chapter 4. Identifying challenges and success factors. This is where the guide gets really practical about the hurdles you're likely to hit.
And it smartly links these challenges back to the phases of the life cycle. Figures 4.1 to 4.5 lay this out. Challenge, common root cause, potential success factor.
Let's pull out a few examples because these are gold. For phase 1, identifying drivers, a big challenge. Lack of senior management buy-in, we mentioned this, but
the root cause listed is often just a lack of understanding of the value. And the success factor: make AG a regular agenda item for the board and key committees. Force the conversation.
Another early one: weak existing enterprise policy or governance.
Root cause there points to deeper leadership or commitment issues. Success factor: raise it directly with the board, highlight the business risk. Don't shy away from it.
Okay, phases 2 and 3, assessment and target setting. Common challenge. Getting business folks to participate.
Yeah, often because EG just isn't seen as their priority. Success factors include getting that top management mandate, maybe creating specific forums like an INT governance board where business has to engage.
And that persistent communication gap between IT and business.
Often because the why hasn't been clearly articulated in business terms. Success factors: clear communication, get business involved in the assessment so they see the issues firsthand.
Phase 4, planning what to do. Resistance to change. Almost inevitable, right?
Totally. Root causes are familiar: fear, misunderstanding, threat to the status quo. Success factors involve focusing awareness on the pain points the change will fix, getting quick wins, providing training, finding champions.
Another challenge: improvements get designed but never actually adopted.
Maybe because they were cooked up in isolation. Success factors involve the process owners who have to live with it, use pilots, formally empower those owners.
And if you use outsourcing, integrating governance can be tricky.
Yeah, unclear roles, contract issues. Success factors include involving suppliers early, defining requirements clearly in contracts, including audit rights, sorting out roles explicitly.
Phase 5, the implementation itself. Challenge. Failing to deliver on commitments, the plan falls apart.
Often due to over-optimism or lack of resources.
Yeah.
Success factors. Manage expectations, keep it simple initially, use strong program management, ensure resources are truly dedicated.
And the related problem, trying to do too much at once.
Underestimating the effort or capacity for change. Success factors. Break it down into smaller pieces, build experience, focus on those quick wins for momentum.
Lastly, phases 6 and 7, monitoring and sustaining.
Yeah.
Challenge. People stop doing the new things.
Yeah, maybe the solutions were too complex, or ownership wasn't clear, or reinforcement stopped. Success factors. Ongoing training, matching roles to skills, consistent reinforcement of the new ways.
And difficulty proving the benefits.
Often because metrics weren't set up properly at the start or results aren't communicated well. Success factors. Set clear metrics and targets from day one. Use scorecards, report in business language, publicize wins.
And just, losing interest over time. Momentum fades.
That suggests continual improvement isn't really embedded or management isn't driving it. Success factors. Regular communication reinforcing the need, publicizing successes, keeping that visible top management commitment.
Looking at all these, it's so clear that leadership, communication, change management, these aren't soft skills here. They're absolutely critical success factors woven through every potential problem and solution.
Which leads us perfectly into Chapter 5. Enabling change. The guide really flags this as perhaps the biggest challenge overall.
Section 5.1 really hammers home the need for change enablement. Success isn't just about documenting good practices. It's about getting people, humans, to adopt them and change their behavior and maybe even the culture.
COBIT sees change enablement as this holistic, systematic thing, preparing stakeholders, managing the human aspects, getting leaders to lead by example, getting staff to actually do the new things willingly.
Like consistently following a new security process or actively participating in a new governance meeting or managers enforcing policies fairly.
And the guide says you need commitment, which comes from diligence, leadership, communication, selling the why. But it also acknowledges that sometimes you might need to, enforce compliance too. And if you don't have the skills internally, bringing in external change management help is a good idea.
Section 5.2 then shows how change enablement activities are built right into the implementation lifecycle phases. It's not separate.
Right. Phase 2, it's about forming the right team with the right change skills.
Phase 3 is about communicating the vision. It mentions the 4 Ps, purpose, picture, plan, part making it relatable, and stressing two-way communication.
Phase 4 involves empowering people and using quick wins, developing change response plans, planning for org or people impacts, leveraging early successes.
Phase 5, implementation, involves mentoring, coaching, helping people adopt the changes.
Phase 6 is about monitoring the change itself. Is it sticking? Integrating it into the culture, reinforcing behaviors.
And Phase 7 is sustaining it long-term. Ongoing reinforcement, communication, keeping leaders engaged, learning lessons.
So yeah, the message is loud and clear. Change enablement isn't an add-on you bolt on at the end. It's a fundamental thread you weave through the entire process.
Okay, now we arrive at Chapter 6, the implementation lifecycle itself. This is where the guide gives the detailed breakdown of those 7 phases we've been talking about.
Right, and for each phase, it lays out the objective, a description, the kinds of tasks involved split into continual improvement, change enablement, program management, plus inputs, resources, outputs, and even sample RCI charts showing who does what.
Let's just quickly touch on the main objective and description for each phase, based on the guide's tables, to get the essence of what happens in each step. We won't list every single task.
Sounds good. Phase 1, what are the drivers?
Objective. Identify why you're doing this, create the desire for change, outline the business case. Description. Articulate the reasons, define program background and goals, initial business case, get stakeholder buy-in.
Phase 2, where are we now?
Objective. Understand enterprise goals, INT's value contribution, critical processes, risks, current capabilities, and capacity for change. Description. Assess the current state against goals and risks, see how components support objectives, check performance and capability levels.
Phase 3, where do we want to be?
Objective. Define the target capability performance. Identify the gaps. Create a roadmap. Description. Define that target. Compare to current state, pinpoint gaps, prioritize improvements, formulate the program plan, and refine business case.
Phase 4, what needs to be done?
Objective. Plan the specific solutions projects. Define how benefits will be tracked. Get plan approval. It's description. Prioritize initiatives into projects. Detail the business case. Figure out enterprise impact. Create the change plan. Define success metrics. Document the schedule.
Phase 5, how do we get there?
Objective. Implement the approved projects. Monitor, measure, report progress. Description. This is the main execution phase, usually longest. Implement projects using PM discipline, acquire, develop solutions, roll them out, aligned with a change plan, monitor performance.
Phase 6, did we get there?
Objective. Integrate metrics into operations. Monitor achievement of goals benefits. Description. Monitor performance using goals metrics, scorecards, benefits register, report results, take corrective action, keep monitoring project status.
Phase 7, how do we keep the momentum going?
Objective. Embed improvements into normal practice, monitor effectiveness, ensure it becomes a continual improvement cycle. Description. Make sure changes stick, review initiative success, identify needs for the next cycle, reinforce the continual improvement mindset, and the guide keeps reminding us. This is iterative. It's designed for ongoing improvement, not a one-and-done project.
And finally, there's Appendix A, which gives an example decision matrix.
Yeah, this is a neat little example showing how you can assign roles and responsibilities for key EG decisions across different groups.
It uses that RCI format, responsible, accountable, consulted, informed, showing how, say, the executive committee, the INT governance board, risk committee, IT management, business process owners might interact on specific decision types.
And the decision topics listed are very concrete. Things like who decides how EGI integrates with enterprise governance? Who defines INT strategy? Who sets INT policies? Who prioritizes INT investments? Who manages SLAs? Procurement. Compliance. It makes the concept of governance roles really tangible. So wrapping up our walkthrough of this COBIT 2019 implementation guide, we've covered its background, why EGI is so critical now, and gone through that detailed 7-phase iterative life cycle for making it happen.
Yeah, and we saw how it tackles the real-world challenges head-on, linking them to root causes and practical success factors, and that constant theme, the absolute need for change enablement, focusing on the people, behavior, and culture, not just process and tech.
The core message really seems to be that implementing EGI with COBIT is structured, it's phased, it's iterative, but it absolutely demands strong leadership from the top, wide stakeholder involvement, and that relentless focus on managing change to make improvements stick.
So hopefully this deep dive has given you, our listener, a clear picture of the guide structure and highlighted the key steps, the potential pitfalls, and the critical factors for successfully implementing INT governance in your own enterprise using this COBIT approach.
And maybe a final thought for you to chew on. The guide really stresses tailoring EGI to your specific context, your pain points. Thinking about your own organization, what specific design factors like your strategy or risk profile or what particular pain points do you think would be the most crucial drivers or influences if you were to embark on this kind of EGI journey?
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the COBIT 2019 implementation guide.